Scrat needs to check himself into a 12-step program. That dude's got an addiction problem.
Yeah, some rehab along with the Trix Rabbit and the Cocoa Puffs bird.
The Cocoa Puffs was Sonny the Cocoa Bird.
Yeah, and even Barney Rubble.
Barney does fuck with Fred a lot.
Over Cocoa Pebbles, his best friend, the shit he does to him.
And Scooby and Shaggy, let's not forget. Fucking snacks. I don't know what's in those, but I want some.
A whole cartoon addiction.
Yeah.
I love how this character is like the cartoon equivalent of a crackhead.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, he is it? No, he is a straight up crackhead. You see his eyes, and he's always
the foaming mouth and
twitching and itching and going up,
the really fucked up teeth.
Those teeth going up to other squirrels, talking about, "Hey, give me a nut. I'll suck your dick." You know? Like, get the fuck away from me, man. Squirrel be like, "What you say to me?" Before they shoot him. Nah, but
he's just trying to get a nut.
Squirrel just trying to get a nut out there like everybody else, including 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, well, they want a lot of nuts.
Yeah, this is the fourth one, and I've seen all the Ice Age movies except for number 2, which Leon, you say is probably the worst.
Well, you know what? Up until 5 minutes ago, I didn't even know they made an Ice Age 3. That completely skipped my memory.
Yeah, I didn't see that one at all. I forgot it was going on. I kept calling this Ice Age 3. And
Me too.
No, there was one with the dinosaurs that mysteriously appeared after the Ice Age.
I've only seen the first one. You're right. You said 20th Century Fox kind of slides these out. I mean, they pretty much shit them out because, I mean, it's like, I never know when they're coming. I never really see trailers for them. And I'm just like, who is the audience for this movie anymore? I thought those kids that liked that first one grew up and like after seeing the second one probably just didn't give a shit.
Wait a
about
minute, co-host. That is funny, Leon. You sat up here. You actually watched the movie thinking that you were watching Ice Age 3.
I did.
You didn't know you were watching Ice Age 4? You didn't see that big number on the poster?
Well, you know, I guess their marketing is working because they reached that point. Did it have I remember having a 4 on it. They don't want to number them.
Yeah, I think this one's called Continental Drift.
Right.
So maybe they
could have been part 6. I still wouldn't have given a shit.
Would it really make any difference at this point?
Yeah, I suppose not. But the first Ice Age, you know what? I really liked that one. I thought it was a surprise because at the time Pixar ruled the roost. They had the lockdown on CG animation. It was just like anybody else coming in, it was like, you only gonna be halfway there. And sure, animation on the first Ice Age, it's all right, I guess. But the story, I was like, you know what? I like these characters. I like this story. It was a fun watch. Bought the DVD, watched it a few times. Hey, that was all right. Second one, fuck that movie. It was all about, we ain't got no ideas. We just want to make some money. It was like Shrek 3. Like all they cared about was making money and bring those characters back. They had no story. Manny, he'll find a wife. Sid will be annoying. And Diego the tiger. Guys, I got nothing. We'll make him afraid of water, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and those are the characters that have been in all the movies. Manny, of course, he's the mammoth voiced by Ray Romano.
Yeah.
Sid is the annoying sloth that's voiced by John Leguizamo, and Diego is
Saber-toothed tiger by Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary.
Yeah, this is Dennis Leary week.
Yeah, it is. Amazing Spider-Man. Now that man is banking. Well, I don't know what he's so pissed off about all the time. He's got money. Kids love these movies, man. And mainly they love them. They don't care about the stories in this.
Kids are stupid.
Yeah, the kids are, and these movies only make them stupider,
Exactly.
because these movies don't even follow their own history that they put out there. Because a lot of people probably don't even remember now that in the first movie, they were taking a human baby back to his family, his tribe or whatever. Yeah. And then in the third movie, by the time we get there, they bring in dinosaurs. But by the time mammals got evolved to this point, dinosaurs were extinct.
They were long.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, what the fuck? And now in this one, we have, as the title suggests, Continental Drift. Pangea pretty much splits off thanks to Scrat. And you were thinking, wait a minute. Man came after this point, and it's like, well, I don't fucking get
too
this.
much sense.
Early Man, they say like some of the reasons why there were man in all the continents is because there were land bridges at one point between some of them still when man was around, but they certainly weren't all just one big mass.
Yeah.
But it's not early Pangea.
Well, I keep wanting to meet the kid that actually watches these movies and takes them for like an honest to God history lesson, because I would be that stupid. Like, I learned everything from movies.
I tell you what, with the movies we got today, we are fucking these kids' minds up.
Dude, if you go to the Creation Museum, it's pretty much just
right, same.
Yeah. This movie is the Creationist Museum. But between Ice Age telling you the history of the planet and
Abraham
Lincoln Vampire Hunter, give you American history. These kids are fucked, man.
Don't forget National Treasure.
You know what? Actually, when you put it that way, Ice Age is probably more historically accurate than
You got a point there.
including Abraham Lincoln. Yeah.
It's a lot more believable than Nicolas Cage's hairpiece.
But in this movie, man, one of the strongest things I thought about the series to varying degrees are the visual gags more than the stories. We were talking earlier, co-host, and you said a lot of this stuff. This harkens back to almost Looney Tunes type, Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner type sight gags.
Yeah, you can't help but think that, because it's always like, for me, it's always like the simplest ideas that you can run with that are just hilarious. And that's the one thing about this Ice Age series. It's honestly the only memorable thing about this series. Whenever they showed this Scraps doing his thing, you know.
Well, they've been doing a great job of carrying that off, because a lot of people have tried to do the Warner Brothers type gags and aren't able to do it. But this has that feel like Chuck Jones would look at it and his ghost would go, "Well done."
Well, I agree with you in as so far as we're talking about Scrat, the squirrel, who his sequences are the funniest of all the movies. Well, maybe 3. I didn't see that one. I don't know. Did anybody see that one? I don't even
People are typing right now. You should have seen it. It was hilarious.
But here he's like, yeah, they pretty much established that he's God, since he split up the continent and said, like, caused all the drama in the story to happen.
That's what I love about this. Now, I'm not saying I love the movie, but that's one of the things I love about this movie is that they've taken a sight gag and in this character that's been in all the movies, which people really don't pay attention to Scrat, but Scrat somehow manages to just have an effect on everyone's life.
Yeah, when you only saw one set of footprints, that's when
Scrat was carrying you. Some claw footprints. But yeah, at the beginning of this movie, they introduced Scrat going after that elusive acorn. I mean, always fucking around trying to get that acorn. And this one, he falls down a hole that leads into the center of the earth. Apparently the core of the earth is just a big BB. And when Scrat is running on that little ball, he manages to make it twirl, which causes a shift, this huge continental drift, and makes this big landmass break apart. And unbeknownst to the characters on the surface, the characters that we know, they're all having experienced this giant earthquake, which for our story's sake here, splits Manny from his family being his mate, his wife or whatever that we were introduced to in the second movie, who's voiced by Queen Latifah, and his daughter, who is, what's her name? Kiki Palmer. Kiki Palmer. And weren't they together?
Teenager now.
The baby is a teenager now.
Sounds like a good drink.
And she's all scrappy and everything.
Yeah, she wants to go fuck the cool mammoth.
She does.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? A cool mammoth? Yeah.
But in her context, I'm not saying I thought, hey, man, that mammoth is pretty cool. I'd fuck that mammoth.
I don't know. I was looking at that Queen Latifah mammoth. That's a lot of ass. I like that. In fact, every black man in the audience was looking at that ass like,
that's a lot of hairy ass.
Yeah. Exactly. That's all right.
Much hair there.
Yeah. But now, one of the things that I didn't care for too much in this movie is, while I love the visual gags in this, I think that this movie is the strongest at putting those visual gags out there. And the character design, I think, is the strongest. This movie has a lot more money going behind it now and looks a lot better. But story-wise, I still think they're, to a certain degree, making these movies out of obligation to making a sequel than really feeling inspired to make a story. One of my biggest problems were the villains that they introduced, which here is just, they're pretty much pirates floating on a big ice bark, which looks like a pirate ship. And the captain of it is this baboon that's voiced by Peter Dinklage. And they find Diego and Sid and Manny, and they say, "Hey, you know what? Fuck your family. They're dead. And if they ain't dead, fuck them anyway, because you're gonna join our crew."
Am I hallucinating, or is that ice coming straight towards us?
Yeah, it's coming. It sounds like there's animals on it.
Oh, must be a party cruise.
Ahoy down there! How lucky are you? You know, these waters are infested with pirates.
We don't want any trouble. We just need to get back to the continent.
There is only here. And here, your ship belongs to me. Now surrender your ship, or face my fury.
Or face your furry what?
Not furry, fury!
We're gonna put you as the work.
Yeah, I love the fact that they were pirates and they weren't afraid to, like, oh, hey, look, pirates are scumbags. We're not going to treat them like they're all cute and lovable and pirate of the year. No, they suck. They come upon you, they Shanghai you, take your ship, and now you swabbing the deck. So let's go.
Yeah.
So, well, this is the studio's attempt to like not confuse people about piracy and what it is.
No, man, you reached a long way for that.
You know what?
The studio execs are going, wait, what?
He's right though, because there is
They've
one
been
more-
all pirate good guys lately. Wait a minute, we're confusing the kids here. We need to make pirates into the bad guys again.
There is one line in the movie, you're right, where somebody gets, one of the pirates gets beat down or stumped on or something, and one of the characters says, piracy is bad. I was like, oh, come on. Really?
Wonk, wonk.
Ain't nobody buying that shit.
Don't steal this movie.
Yeah.
All right, it's the only way I was going to consider watching it.
Cyrus, what you think about this, man?
What I think about this movie?
Yeah.
Y'all seem a lot more fond about it than I did. I thought you kept saying the character designs are good. And I'm like, really? Because they just seem really kind of generic to me. There was nothing real special about the pirates. In fact, like Coase mentioned this earlier, the ape guy, he looked like the crate monster from Creep Show.
Yeah.
And that was freaking me out.
Yeah,
Every
he was
time they
fucking
showed
me.
him.
I mean, he wasn't fucking me, but he was scaring the shit out of me. And I was like, wow, I was waiting for kids to actually freak out, especially during the close-ups of him grinning and showing his teeth. I mean,
it just was kind of making me nauseous watching him because he's so gross and horrible.
That's not good design.
That's
Yeah,
good.
no, but they're just copying this other design. And I just like,
From
he's
a
not
movie
that
from how long ago?
Well, he's not that interesting of a character ultimately. I was like, oh, okay. So wait, what do you want? All this is about trying to get the mammoth to join your crew, or is it, or what? I'm not even sure why what you didn't want there. It's not like they had gold on their ice floe or something.
No, you're right
It was
about
just-
that.
They wanted manpower. Normally I'm with you, but this wasn't that hard to figure out.
It was a little iffy for me. I was like, okay, well, it seems like there's a point that why didn't you just say, fuck it, this is more trouble than it's worth.
I agree with you on that. I thought that the story wasn't all that strong. On the one end, you got the journey that we see in almost every talking animal movie. And then you have the villains that come in and their story is not too strong either, right down to something I thought they would never do in an Ice Age movie. And that is put in a musical number, which I thought was terrible.
No, that is the worst musical number I've ever witnessed.
It's like they were even in how did they make the animated characters look embarrassed even to be doing
it would have fit. It would have fit.
They actually changed the, they're like, oh God.
There was one rabbit in the background who wasn't moving his mouth. He just walked off screen like, man, fuck this.
Fuck this. They don't pay me enough bullion for this bullshit.
But Leon, looks like you disagree with a lot of this criticism.
Well, I mean, it's far from a perfect movie. And as a matter of fact, when it started, I was just like, oh, well, here we go again. More of this. And I think the biggest problem I had was that there were too many subplots and too many characters, especially dealing with this family, with Manny's family, Keke Palmer, her whole story. I was like, I understand this is a part that appeals to the kids, but for this story, it's just too much. Like every time they cut back to that, I'm like, this is a one note thing. I don't care about that. The rest of it, the starting, when it began, I was like, I don't know. But once they got to the storm, I was like, wow, they handled that storm really well, the way I was like genuinely terrified by it. And it went on for a while. I was like,
you talking about when the land started breaking apart?
Well, when our three main characters they're drifting on the ice floe and then that huge tidal wave.
Oh, yeah.
comes. And they did a great job with that. And I thought the writing got better as it kept going. I kept expecting to not like it, and I did. And then everything they did with the pirates, most of it was inventive, like the design of the baboon and the way they use the 3D for when he get right in your face and you see his teeth. I'm like, that's really effective. And just the idea of like using ice floes shaped like pirate ships to make pirate ships. I mean, it's not great stuff, but from where they came, I was like, you know what? This feels like they did actually have some inspiration and sat down and wrote something as opposed to like, let's just get this out. And even I was like the way this movie was, it was even not afraid to go wild where there's a point where it becomes like the Odyssey and they meet sirens. I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
That's how crazy this movie is.
I was wondering what the fuck they were.
It was crazy.
Were they like crazy fish or
weird
something? I don't get
chameleon demon fish?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, wow, where's this come from? And yet they do weave it back into the story where it worked. I was like, you know what? If a movie has to just lay there or do something crazy that doesn't make sense, I go with the crazy don't make sense.
Yeah, those creatures look like crackhead muddy mud skippers or something.
Yeah, they did.
And I was like, do these things even exist? Do I need to check my history?
Well, then when you start mixing mythologies, you bring these sirens in. when they were at sea, and I was like, I don't get it. And they're just bringing crazy elements in because they're just thinking off the cuff. And then,
that's what
if it works, it's okay.
That's what this movie needed, because with a movie like this, I go in and I'm just like, this is for me. I don't give a shit. I'm not invested in these characters. I'm just scratching my head wondering how is it I'm in a theater watching another fucking Ice Age movie. But the thing is, as it went on, I was like, all right, the side gags and some of the jokes were actually working, or, especially, Scraps. Is that his name? Scrats. Okay. Where, whatever the fuck that dude's name is. Yeah.
It really takes me back when you used to say Medea's name, Medinka. Who is Medinka?
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where the side gags were funny. Scratch was actually hilarious. And I was curious, like with the other movies, if they incorporated his character as much as I noticed that they did in this movie, to where he was popping out I thought he had just about as much screen time as the actual main characters, the main characters I noticed weren't really on the screen that much, because they introduced those pirates, which with a movie like this, I'm like, that's good, because I guess for the kids so their attention span, cause I noticed a lot of the storylines weren't working, cause I know they kind of weren't working for me, but they were moving so quick that I forgot about those flaws in the storyline.
There were points here and there I thought was entertaining, but that sort of absurdity that you say that they're going for just felt desperate and not creative absurdity. Like, shit, we don't even know how to move the story along. Let's make up this thing. I mean, who cares at this point, right?
Believe me, I'm not saying it was good. I'm just like, they just gave me something to just go, okay.
I mean, only the Scrat stuff really made me laugh, and we're talking about bookends to this film. I mean, the rest of it was just, like I said, the main characters, even in the original film, were just okay interesting, with a film that was paced pretty well, and that did a lot. But by this time, I'm just like, look, I really am done with these main characters. Please stop telling their story. Seriously.
But these characters are dead to me.
They're not introducing anybody new. I mean, this time around, what you get, like, the sloth has a grandmother voiced by Wanda Sykes that is only there largely to bring in a Deus Ex Machina character at the very end.
But you know what? I wanted to hit that point to where, along with Scratch, though, that they did introduce a character that I really liked. And that was the grandmother sloth, Wanda Sykes. Cause I thought everything that was coming out of her mouth, I was laughing at. It was cute, but it was hilarious.
I expected her to be really annoying, and I was like, everything I seen from the preview was like, all right, here we go. We get to write the filthy old lady jokes. But I was with you. I was like, wow, these are actually funny.
I love the way they didn't hold back showing that Sid's family were a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, they a bunch of white trash assholes.
Yeah, they come in and they stack like they want to come see Sid, and they just come in to dump the grandmother off on him because they getting tired of her too.
Boy, there's so much to tell you. A lot has happened since the last time I saw you. Not interested.
Yahoo! We got rid of the crazy rat. Let's go. Come move.
See ya.
They abandoned that. They abandoned that bitch with him. I was like, wow, man, really?
Yeah. And it's the crazy woman who's talking to an imaginary character. We don't know if he's actually there or not.
Precious.
Precious.
Precious. And that was kind of the thing that worked, because it brought in an element of just how odd and a misfit of a cast these friends are.
Yeah.
I thought it kind of brought it home with just what those characters were originally about. And that's what I dug about it.
I definitely see all the criticism here. And I just don't know if I let it get to me enough to ruin the whole movie for me or bring the movie down for me, because I thought where they did have an obligation to fill, where 20th Century Fox said, all right, it's time for another Ice Age movie. Let's go. Come on. I think that the animators and the visual effects artists at least tried to bring something in that I thought was creative, where it might have been lacking in the story. All that stuff with the land breaking apart and the masses splitting up, especially when Manny's being split up by his family. I thought that stuff was incredible. Visually, I thought that was amazing, along with that storm that you're saying. And there were just certain things in there, like that we were talking about, that I thought were funny. That whole thing with the sirens, I didn't get it, why they put it in there, but it was a joke that worked. And I love the design of all the animals in the crew. And there were some extra characters on the side. I mean, there's so many voices in these movies too. I like that I don't even know who they are now. Like Aziz
Ansari.
Aziz Ansari is in here.
He was the rabbit.
Was he the bunny rabbit?
Was he the rabbit?
Yeah,
okay.
he's the rabbit. Yeah.
I didn't even know that. And Sean William Scott is in here, and I got a bunch. And I'm not going to say where he is, but Patrick Stewart's in here somewhere, and it just have all these voices.
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah, and I just,
J-Lo's in this movie.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
actually one of the
main characters.
I actually knew who she was, but I just like that they put some of these people in here to do these voices where they just didn't make them stand out. You know, it's where it was visually inspired and some of the sight gags themselves outside of the story worked. That made the movie for me, but I definitely see where it falls outside of those areas and everywhere else. Because Ice Age, the first one, didn't have the money that this has. I would even say that this is probably better than that first Ice Age movie because the pace moves so fast, because they put in so many gags in there. I think kids are gonna love this. And where I'm paying attention to the stories, kids are like, I just want to laugh, man. I don't care.
Fuck you, old man.
Yeah, fuck you, exactly. Shut up, old man. I'm trying to watch Ice Age 4. Fuck you. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a low matinee.
It was the pacing and the design of the characters and the fact that there was some inspiration going into it. It's the only Ice Age I've enjoyed since the first one. And that musical number at the end, no doubt, that's horrible. But I've seen so many of these, you know, I hate it when they did it in Despicable Me. It's like, I wish you guys would stop doing it, but since there's not enough people rallying against it, then fine, fuck, go for it. I'd say if you're going to watch this movie, when the credits roll, just get up and leave. Don't stick around for that.
That's one of the things I hate about, that is probably my biggest pet peeve with animated films today is when they bring in characters to dance at the end.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Or having the cast sing at the very end. I was like, what is this, Farm Aid 4?
Exactly, right? We gotta raise money help these poor animals who are losing their homes.
We gotta
because of
raise money for the
drift.
next, we gotta raise money for the next fucking Ice Age movie.
Yeah. What'd you give it?
Well, I give it a matinee because it's one of these things where, like, yeah, if you want to pick it apart or the characters aren't working for you, you want to find stuff, there's plenty to criticize about it. But for me, just sitting there, taking it as it was and finding what was fun about it, I actually had a really good time.
See, the thing for me is like all that stuff you're talking about, like picking it apart, most of that came later thinking about it. As I'm watching it, my main criticism was just, hey man, this isn't funny. Just watching it going, I'm not entertained. There's some visual stuff that they may have spent some money on, but not enough where anything I've never seen anything like that before. That was really impressive. Now, like Madagascar 3 did stuff where I was like, that was surprising visually. That was truly neat and original. There was never a moment in this whole film where I felt like that. So I was like, there's enough here. Yeah, certainly enough here to entertain kids because it moves real fast and it's absurd, but I just don't think there's much to entertain adults, or at least not me. So this is just a rental.
All right. Yeah, you know, it's one of those movies that you watch where when you're there, because hey, who you know, we watch this on a Saturday morning. Who doesn't love Saturday morning cartoonies? You know, it's just when you're watching Saturday morning cartoons,
somebody who's hungover like me.
Well, hey, we all have our problems. But I mean, just watching something like that, you know, you do kind of give it a pass. But the parts, you know, the more outrageous parts that seem you kind of just thrown in, those parts all worked. It was a lot better than I expected, but not by much. So yeah, just a rental.
Damn, boy.
Sorry.
Apparently you don't love Saturday morning cartoons that much, man.
Hey, man.
Like Saturday morning cartoonies.
What happened to y'all?
They have to be good, all right? Not everyone can be a Spider-Man and his
I
amazing
gave Saturday
friends.
morning cartoons based on whether or not I would enjoy more staying in bed.
Oh, Lord. I feel so sorry for both of you, man. No, you lost your childhood. That's too bad.
No, I know
God.
what it is.
Wait, it's actually good to lose your child.
Yeah, that's when you get laid.
Ice Age Continental Drift.
You're pretty soft. Or a saber.
Excuse me, I happen to be a remorseless assassin.
Diego Poo. Hey, I made you another coral necklace. He keeps losing them.